Well, hi everybody, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of the lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT. In this particular live YouTube video, I'm actually going to listen to and comment on one of my students' pronunciation post-test. That's kind of my goal right now. So my students typically, in order to get 26 on the speaking section, obviously one area they want to make improvements on is delivery. So I have 48 lessons in my online course that focus on either vowel or consonant sounds and other areas of pronunciation. So my students go through and complete those lessons, and then when they're doing practice exercises, they email them to me, and I listen to them and comment on them. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this video right now. Okay, so the first thing is I'm going to go ahead over to my website. This is my website here, stealth.michaelbuckoff.com, and the student completed Speak Clearly lesson number 48. So this is a post-test that focuses on vowels, consonants, syllable division, grammatical word endings, word stress, sentence rhythm, intonation, thought groups, and blending. So after we're done, I will give some recommendations to the student. Now I'm going to just talk to him directly now. Andres, how are you today? And thank you for completing the post-test. Let me go ahead and give me a quick second here. So I'm going to listen to the paragraph readings. See how you did here. All right, here we go. I think we have it. Okay, let's go to the first one.
When two people are talking to each other, they tend to stand a specific distance apart.
Now, too many pauses in there, so if I read that, when two people are talking to each other, they tend to stand a specific distance apart. Notice I don't pause between stand and They stand a specific distance apart.
Each person has an invisible boundary around his/her body into which other people may not come.
Okay.
If someone pierces this boundary, he will feel uncomfortable and move away to increase the distance between them.
Alright.
The major exception is family members and other loved ones. This personal distance is not due to body odor or bad breath, but because closeness leads to a sense of intimacy that is at odds with a relationship to other individuals.
Again, so the blending area you can work on. So if I looked at this personal distance is not due to body odor or bad breath, but because closeness. Here's the problem. Closeness lends a sense of intimacy that is at odds with the relationship to the other individual. So usually, Andres, when we have an S on the end of one word and we have a vowel, we kind of link these together, especially if these words are in the same thought group.
Interestingly, the average personal distance varies from culture to culture.
Notice how there you say distance, distance, but it's distance. So you need to review. There's a few things. I'm just taking notes, and when we get done, I will give you some information.
Americans tend to require more personal space than in other cultures. Therefore, if you try to get too close to an American during your conversation, he or she will feel that you are in his face and will try to back away. Try to be aware of this, so if the person to whom you are speaking backs away a little, don't try to close the gap.
You did better here, like you said, backs away. I like how you took the S and you combined that with A, so backs away a little.
Also, try to avoid physical contact while you're speaking, since this may also lead to discomfort. Touching
since this, not this, so may lead to discomfort, so that's a word stress issue with that word.
It's a bit too intimate for casual acquaintances. So don't put your arm around her shoulder.
You have to say casual acquaintances.
Don't touch her face or hold her hand. Shaking hands when you initially meet or part is acceptable, but this is only momentary.
Good. Self-correction. I like how you said you corrected your word stress shift, and the second time you said it correctly. That's good. Self-correction, one of the best ways to improve your speaking and pronunciation, because if you don't know you're doing it wrong, then how can you get better? So I like how you said it incorrectly, then you corrected yourself, and then you pronounced it with the appropriate word stress. Okay, now the next thing. You're actually going to answer 3 specific questions that I will figure out on my intelligibility scale where you are. High beginner, or are you near native speaker? That's what I'm going to try to figure out.
Who is your best friend? Well, I consider that my best friend is my father. He is a person that always has supported me in my studies. He always gives me good examples.
Don't forget, he always gives. That S ending, you got to pronounce that S as a Z. Don't forget your third person S ending, Andres. And then sometimes you pronounce it as an S, sometimes as a Z.
Of how I should behave in difficult circumstances. He also has been a good friend in the sense that I can tell him my personal things, and I
notice that tell him things. So almost every time that particular vowel sound, that is sound, meet, that's a very troublesome sound for you. Now I know why, you know why. I believe your first language is Spanish, and in the Spanish language you don't even have that I. You have the E, A, E, O, U, right? So that one vowel sound doesn't exist. So what you're doing is you're replacing the one vowel sound with the vowel sound that you actually use in your first language, and that helps explain why you have this accent that you have.
Can wait a good opinion or a good idea to solve my problems. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Notice the word not 5 years, but 5 years from now. So that Y consonant sound you're having a little bit of trouble with.
Well, my plans now are studying in the United States maybe 3 or 4 years and then come back to my country.
No, my parents maybe either have been studying or had been studying when they, so you're having some language use issues there. Let's listen to it again.
And my problems. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Well, my plans now are studying in the United States maybe 3 or 4 years.
So I would say my parents have been studying in the United States for maybe 3 or 4 years.
And then come back to my country,
and they went back to their country, not came back to their country. We were talking about this in our class this morning. So usually you'll say went there because you're recording this for me. My normal state here is United States, not your country. So it's better there to say they went back.
Country, I would like to work in a university in projects related to medical solutions for poor people. Also, I would like to start a company that designs prototypes to compete with some technologies that are typically costly and expensive, so we can expand this kind of businesses.
Okay.
What is your favorite season of the year?
All right. So now you're answering the third question here.
My favorite season is spring. I consider the weather in spring is the best of the year because it's not so cold like fall or winter, and it's not so warm like summer. Also, when you can see how the parks looks nicer than than in other seasons, I prefer to this kind of weather. And there are always flowers and plants are nice to see in this season. So I consider spring is my favorite season.
All right. You did it. So that is your post-test. Now, let's take a look. Now, if you want to get a high score on the TOEFL test, which means 26 points or higher, you want to score at least 5.1 or higher on my intelligibility scale. So for you, you're not there yet. Sometimes even from a language use perspective, you remember where you said my parents are studying, I said my parents have been studying. So sometimes you're not sure what verb tense you need to use. For example, in that case, whether you should use present progressive or present perfect progressive. So sometimes it's a language use issue. Also with pronunciation, you have specific areas that you have not mastered yet, and you need to work on those things, I think, in order for you to improve your intelligibility. So your score here, I'm going to put you at about 3.9, maybe between 3.8 and 4.0, so intermediate level in your speaking abilities right now. So here you're mostly intelligible. You do have some pronunciation variations in there that you want to work on. Now, finally, so I scored you at about 3.9. So you're not there yet, for whatever reason. I'm being honest, right? Okay, now, let's go back to my website. Let's go to the pronunciation area of my course for a second. I'm going to make some recommendations for you. So I know the post-test, the purpose of the post-test, Andres, is to see if you have mastered all of the areas in the pronunciation section of my course. So here are my comments. The biggest, most noticeable problem you have is the I, the meet, met, that. So speak clearly lesson number 11. I recommend you go through that lesson, and there's some voice recording exercises at the end. I want you to do those exercises, then email me, send them to me, and I can listen to them. All right? And I will tell you what problems you're having there. So I think lesson number 11 you want to pay attention to. The next one, I think lesson number 19, that P. I mean, you understand the P and the B consonant sounds, right? I get it. But you're not pronouncing the P with enough air. Pat, bat. So I think that's another lesson you can take a look at. I think we have one more here. Let me see. Lesson number 16 I'd like you to look at. So 11, 16, 19, 16, it focuses, remember the word casual, measure, casual. That sounds a little bit hard for you. Okay, let's keep going. I think lesson 26, 27, and 28, syllable division. You understand how to divide the word into syllables, but sometimes you're either not putting the grammatical word ending at the end of the word, or you're not pronouncing it correctly. For example, with the S. Sometimes when we put S on the end of a word, sometimes we pronounce it as an S. Other cases we pronounce it as a Z. And in other cases, for example, the word wash, washes, we actually add a new syllable at the end of the word. So you're not entirely clear on that. Okay, one other area I'd like you to take a look at. You had the word stress issue, but I don't think that's a major thing. But this one, big, you need to improve this. So lesson number 41, 42, 43, and 44. So I think those are also some areas that you definitely can work on, Andres. So I think as you're making improvements with your thought groups and your blending, right, what you're doing is you're grouping those ideas into groups. And remember, after each thought group, you have kind of a slightly higher inflection, and then you go to the next thought group. Now, once you get to the final thought group, that's when your intonation drops. What you're not doing when you're speaking, you're not blending the words together in the thought groups, and that's why you're taking so long to communicate your ideas, because you're putting too many pauses in there. So you need to really understand the concept of both pausing and blending, and that helps you to achieve a higher level of speaking fluency. You see what we're saying? So those are some things that you definitely can work on in order to continue to improve your speaking fluency. So thank you for completing this particular pretest, and I hope that you found my comments helpful. And what you want to do now, Andres, is the recommended lessons I just gave you in the video. You can complete some of those voice recording exercises and then send them to me by email, and I will certainly listen to those things again, all right, and give you more feedback.